your weight on the last guy in the section who can only read all notes. He's not there. It's good musicians. And all of a sudden you roll through it and say, you know, and the deal is you don't have to be a music major to be in the top band of any university. As long as you beat everybody else in sight reading. You'd be surprised where you go. It's a real key to get into a university ensemble. It's sight reading. So what it amounts to, this long-term music as direction, point to point to point, will really help you with your sight reading. I asked the kids yesterday, I said, now knowing that, I said, you know, what's the most important note in a piece? And of course we established that in most cases, you would say it's the first note. But actually it's the last note. Yes, because that's where we're going. We're always going. Now maybe the last note of a phrase or the last note of a section or the last note. It's because it's not that maybe it's the most important note, but it is the note you are moving towards. I told them yesterday that I get in my car every morning and in my house, I back out of my garage, and as soon as I put my car in forward, I am no longer at home. I'm on my way to school. I go through 4 stop signs and 2 stoplights. So I have 4 cadences and 2 fermatas. But the deal is, I'm still going to school. Okay? And music like that, what happens a lot of times is young people, they get stopped by these things and don't think about any further on. But the whole deal, it's a whole continuous thread. So that second attribute is simple enough, is that music always moves forward. Now you can even get that down to smaller units. Da-da-da-da-da, moves forward. You know, it's not da-da-da-da-da, it's da-da-da-da-da, it moves forward. Okay? So that's the second one. The third one is probably the most is one I love to use because it makes so much sense. It's a little more complicated to understand. The third attribute, Mr. Bancook talks about lines that go up crescendo and lines that go down decrescendo. And what he was talking about were strings going arpeggios. Because in those days, all the clarinets were doing and he wanted to get contour up and down. Well, the thing today, what that means to us today is this, that the contour of your line dictates the dynamics of the line. If the line does this, so does the dynamic. Which means if it started out soft here, it's not soft up here anymore. You can't put a dynamic in a box. And what happens is the fact that it is changing your thinking about what do you do with dynamics? What are the things that control dynamics? You know, that dynamic level at the first note of the phrase is only for the first note of the phrase. And then the weight of the notes, the direction of the music, and the contour of the line will dictate what happens in there. Now the deal is, sure, if it's going to be soft, it can be in degrees of softness. You're going to have, you know, music does this because you and I do this. We breathe in and out, we sigh, we do all those things. Why can't music do that? So the contour of the line, now what that does, all these 3 attributes get all mixed up together. You don't do one and without the other. You don't just do one, it's not the rule. But you do all of them. You hear them all together and they'll all kind of collide with one another, but they make the music come alive. Which in one case makes the lines much more fluid. I remember when I was growing up, the melody line was the most important and everybody else stayed under it. That was the idea. That was the rule. You stay underneath the melody line, period. Well, you know, Gene Corcoran, my wife has her conducting degree from North Texas. And she said Gene Corcoran always talks about 3 things. He talks about music being generated. There's music that's generated by the melodic content, music that's generated by the harmonic content, and then there's that music in the middle that's the engine that runs the piece. And that motor that runs the piece can move anywhere. And what amounts to, it's all the lines, all the things that move, you know, here and to and fro all the way through the piece, and they run and you know all this movement, and we try and hide that because it's underneath the melody line. But what we're saying here today is that's got life to it too. If I didn't think all those notes didn't have life, then I'd be writing Gregorian chant. Right? I mean, let's face it, you know, if we didn't do it, we'd still be back in 1300, okay? But we believe it's, you know, these lines got to fly around, and shouldn't they be heard? Well, yes, it should, because they're going to fly in and out, which is why a blended band is not a homogenized band. A blended band is a band where the right color comes out of the palette at any given time. I told the band yesterday, my wife and I think I told them, we love to go to museums. We love impressionistic paintings, where you're up close, it's just, you back away, it's a tree. It's you know, it's lily pads like that. But the deal is, those things, splashing the color up close, just splashing the color, because you got, and then you come back and they all come together. But they do start out as flashes of color. They kind of explode and blink, and you back away, and suddenly it's a beautiful picture. Well, music is like that too. Sound is just like that. You know, and so there is no part that shouldn't be heard at any given part. We tell the kids when we first start doing music with them that, well, how do you know your line's important? And the answer is, well, if it moves, somebody else doesn't. And yet we'll do pieces, and if they're not the better line, oh, can't hear, you know, but I move. I'm sorry, I gotta say that, you know, you're underneath, you know. Say, well, no, let's let them come out and be who they are, kind of thing. So these three attributes, I mean, I preach these to my kids, and of course, we do them because someone in this room is going to change. It's not going to be me. I remember that line. Yeah, you all can use that. All right? And this is the way I do it. This is the way you're going to do it. All right? But basically what it amounts to then, my kids have a musical belief system. They can add to those all they want. I don't care. I mean, I want them to add things to their belief system about music, kind of thing. But I give them something to start with. And I think those three attributes are something they take care of almost 75% of the music problems they're ever going to have. It's just amazing. And therefore, my student teachers come out much better, and they get better jobs because of that too, because they walk in a place and they get really good credit from their supervising teacher to do that. So here's what we're going to do. Now, the terrible thing about this is you take a great man like this and you tell him to play average. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to play Philip Bliss the way it's written on the paper. Now, see, there's the problem. You know, you write stuff on the paper, but if I put all these things in little stickers and all stuff like that,